Hello everybody and welcome to a Grimdark Future Firefight Battle Report. Prime Brothers versus Havoc Plague Brothers. Lieutenant Gabriel looked over the industrial buildings and ruins. There was no doubt that unknown forces were gathering troops for a larger and bigger assault on Crapus 4. His mission was to make sure the Prime Brothers were ready for that attack. But right now, that was not his biggest concern. His path to complete his mission was blocked. And the stench of plague disciples revealed that an enemy squad was hiding in the ruins. Even though he couldn't see the enemy, he was convinced that Kaligor finally caught up with him. He could feel it. Plague Champion Kaligor had been searching for Gabriel for ages. Now he was more close than ever before. His hunt was obstructed by a battle with a High Elf squad, but in the end that turned out to be his luck. The delay had brought him here at exactly the same moment as Gabriel and his troops. Kaligor was convinced he could finally settle the score. And here we have 300 points of Plague Brothers. Kaligor armed with energy axe and plasma pistol, another brother with plague sprayer, a third brother with heavy pistol and energy axe, and a fourth with plague sword and heavy pistol, and then two groups of plague zombies. Lieutenant Gabriel has brought 300 points of Prime Brothers. He is armed with plasma pistol and energy sword, and he also has a combat shield. Prime Brother Francis armed with heavy rifle, Assault Brother Gennaro with heavy pistol and energy sword, Prime Brother Lothar with auto rifle, and then two raiders, both armed with heavy pistol and energy swords. And here we have the battlefield with 4 objectives. Each objective will give 1 victory point to the squad that controls it at the end of turn 4. Besides that, both Kaligor and Lieutenant Gabriel have the Slay side mission. That means 1 additional victory point if either Kaligor or Lieutenant Gabriel is killed. The 2 squads will deploy like this, with Kaligor in the Player A deployment zone and Lieutenant Gabriel in Section B. And the squads have deployed like this, with a group of plague zombies over here, a plague brother behind the pipe, Kaligor and another plague brother in a central position, and then another group of plague zombies here, and over here on the right side of the battlefield, the final brother. On the other hand, Lieutenant Gabriel have deployed a raider and a prime brother close to objective 1, Gabriel himself and the assault brother in the middle of the battlefield, and close to objective number 2, another raider and the final prime brother. So let's roll off to see who will start and activate. First, red dice for Kaligor and the black dice for Lieutenant Gabriel. And it's a 1 and a 2, and that means Kaligor will activate first. First activation is Plague Brother Masak here, who will hide behind the rock and try to keep himself out of sight of any of the Prime Brothers. And next up, first activation for the Prime Brothers, we have the Raider Vincent, who moves close to objective number 2 and seizes the objective. And now Kaligor himself is on the move, trying to position himself better. He stays in cover here behind the industrial building in the middle of the battlefield. Prime Brother Lothar moves next. He seizes objective number 1. He's not in cover, but he moves close enough to be within shooting range of the Plague Brother behind the pipeline. So he takes a shot with his auto rifle, and he has 2 shots needing 4s to hit. And with a 2 and a 3, that means 2 missed shots. And Plague Brother D-Morg immediately retaliates. He moves 6 inches and seizes the objective, but he also is within shooting range with his heavy pistol. He has 1 shot and he needs a 4 to hit. And that's a 4. So 1 hit, and Brother Lothar needs a 3+ to defend. And with a 2, that's just not enough. So 1 wound, and he will go down and make a roll on the wound chart. So let's see what happens. And with a 4, he is stunned. Now Marcus the Raider moves up in cover behind the crates. He can fire 1 shot at Plague Brother Demorg, who's in cover, so he'll need a 5 to hit. And that's a hit. It's a heavy pistol AP1, so Demorg will need a 4 up to save the shot. And he succeeds, so he's not hit. The Plague Brother with the Plague Sprayer activates and seizes objective number 4. And that's his activation. The Assault Brother Gennaro, he's in cover here behind the rock. He rushes his full range of movement. He is in cover behind the industrial building, but he cannot shoot. The first group of Plague Zombies move 8 inches in cover behind these crates. They are slow, so 8 inches is the maximum movement range for them. Prime Brother Francis here is armed with a heavy rifle with 24 inches range, and here behind the cover of the pipeline he can take a shot at Plague Brother Sorlak. He needs a 3, but he only gets a 2, so that's a missed shot. And the final group of Plague Zombies here sneak up, and maybe they will try to hide and make a surprise attack in the next round. The final activation of the first round is Lieutenant Gabriel himself. He moves up behind the pipeline, and I think he'll try to thin out some of the Plague Disciples. He is armed with a heavy pistol and he needs a 3 to hit, but with a 2, that's just not good enough. And that was the end of the first round. The Prime Brothers seized 2 objectives, and the Havoc Plague Brothers also seized 2 objectives. So we have a completely even battle, and the forces have moved slightly closer to each other. And then we'll just have to see what happens in the second round. Second round begins with Kaligor, who jumps over the pipeline, still in cover behind the building, and from here he can see Marcus the Raider and take a shot at him with his heavy pistol. And he will need a 4 because the Raider is in cover. And he fails. Prime Brother Lothar, who was stunned in the first round, jumps up, and he is still wounded, but it seems like a smart move. Otherwise, it would be very risky, and he could be taken out. Plague Brother Demorg back here charges against Prime Brother Gennaro. He is armed with an energy axe, and he needs a 3 to hit. And a solid hit. Now Gennaro needs to defend, and if he doesn't, he will be hit by 3 wounds because it's a deadly energy axe. And with a 1, there is nothing stopping the axe. So 1 wound multiplied with 3, and he goes down, and a roll on the wound chart with a 4. It's a total of 7, and Gennaro is knocked out of the battle. Very nice and aggressive move by Plague Brother Demorg. Now Lieutenant Gabriel himself decides to take his revenge, and he charges with 3 attacks from his energy sword, and he will need 3s to hit. So 3 hits coming against Brother Demorg. It's AP1, so he will need 4s to defend. And he makes 2 of them fails the last one. That means 1 wound unless he can regenerate, and he does. With a 5 or a 6, the Plague Brothers are able to regenerate wounds. So no wounds at all for D-Mark, but he can fight back now. He is fatigued though, so he will need a 6 to hit back. And he doesn't. Plague Brother Masak was sneaking up the right side of the battlefield, and now he charges against the Raider here. He's armed with a Plague Sword, and it's poisonous, and it has 2 attacks. He needs 3s to hit. And a 4 and a 6 and an unmodified roll of 6 will be multiplied with 3 because of the poisonous ability of the Plague Sword. So that means a total of 4 hits coming against the Raider, who defends on a 3. And it's AP 1, so he will need a 4 to defend these 4 hits. And looking good here, 6, 4, and 6, and the final dice a 5, so he actually manages to block all 4 attacks. And now he decides to hit back. He is also armed with an energy sword, and it's 3 attacks, hitting on 4s. And 2 of them hit the target. So D-Mark now, with an AP 1 of the sword, will need to make 4 up saves. And he makes 1 and fails 1. So 1 wound, and he will have a chance to regenerate with a 5 or a 6. And also he regenerates the wound here. So no wounds at all in this dramatic fight. The Plague Brother moves back an inch here after the fight. And next up is Brother Francis. He moves in cover behind the pipeline, and from here he has a clear shot at the Plague Brother Sorlak. But with a 1, he misses his shot with his heavy rifle. Plague Brother Sorlak now activates, and he moves forward out in the open here to get closer to Brother Francis. He has a firing range of 12 inches with his Plague Sprayer, so that's just good here. He has 6 shots, and every dice roll of 6 will be multiplied with 3 because it's poisonous. And here we have 1 6, so that means 3 hits and then a regular hit, 4 total hits against Brother Francis. And he has a defense of 2, and the Plague Sprayer is an AP nothing weapon, so he will need 4 2s, or at least, yeah, he got a lot of 2s here and 1 6, and that's all good, so he is not wounded by any of the hits from the Plague Sprayer. Marcus the Raider charges the Plague Zombies now. He has an energy sword with 3 attacks, but he is furious, which means 1 extra attack, a total of 4, and he will need 4s to hit. So 2 hits. One of them is rending, and the other is a normal hit. The Plague Zombies has a defense of 6, so they really can't defend anything here, and 2 of them goes down. But they can regenerate, so maybe they come back. 2 rolls, and 1 of them is good. A 5 or a 6 will regenerate one of the zombies, and he will be back. So there are 2 zombies left in the group, and they decide to attack back. 4 attacks with claws, and they actually manage to hit all 4 attacks. And it's AP nothing, but Marcus still has to defend. And he manages to defend 2 of the claw attacks. So he is hit with 2 wounds, and he will roll on the wound chart. And with a roll of 3, he is still in the game, but he is stunned. The other group of plague zombies here move forward. They are slow, so they can't really rush more than 8 inches, but they move closer now and try to position themselves better for the next round. Vincent, the other raider, has already fought this round, so he decides to shoot instead against Brother Massac. He will need a 4 to hit, and that's a miss. The 2 remaining plague zombies have not yet activated. Unfortunately for Raider Marcus, they can charge him, and since he is stunned, they will automatically take him out. So Marcus is out of the game. And that was the last activation in round 2. The Plague Brothers force the Prime Brothers back here. They now control 3 objectives and the Prime Brothers only 1, down here in the left corner of the battlefield. And we also have a few casualties here in this round, so Gabriel and his Prime Brothers will need to step up in round number 3. First activation in this round is the Raider Vincent, who charges into the back of the Plague Brother and reclaim the objective. He has 4 attacks and 3 hits, and 6s means that it's rending, so it's AP 4 for the Plague Brother to save, and he misses all of them. And since they are rending, they cannot be regenerated. So ignore this dice roll, it's completely unnecessary, and he will receive 3 wounds. And with a roll of 3 on the wound chart, it's a total of 6, so Vincent just took him out of the game with a heavy charge. And now he can consolidate and reclaim the objective. Good start for the Plague Brothers, but Brother Demork here then attacks Gabriel. He has 1 attack with his energy axe and he misses. And Gabriel decides not to fight back. He has other plans, so the Plague Brother will just back off 1 inch. Lieutenant Gabriel instead ignores the Plague Brother and charges directly against his arch-enemy Kaligor. And he attacks him with 3 attacks from his energy sword, and with 2 5s and a 4, he hits Kaligor all 3 times. And it's an AP 1 sword, so Kaligor will need 5s to defend. And he manages to defend 1 of the hits. None of them are rending, so he will get 2 wounds, but he has a chance to regenerate. And with 1 6 here and a 3, he will regenerate 1 of the 2 wounds. Kaligor swings his heavy energy axe back at Lieutenant Gabriel. He will need a 3 to hit. It's a deadly weapon, but he misses. So he will then back off 1 inch. Kaligor activates. He has already fought this round, so he is fatigued. So he moves back close to the objective and fires his plasma pistol against Lieutenant Gabriel. He will need a 3 to hit, and with a 5 he hits 1 shot with AP 4, which means it's a 6 defense roll for Lieutenant Gabriel, and with a 3 he is wounded. He has a toughness of 3, so he won't need any rolls on the wound chart. Prime Brother Lothar is forced to move back in cover, and from his cover here behind the building, he can fire his auto rifle twice against the Plague Brother. He needs 3s to hit and only 2s, so what a poor performance. The 2 plague zombies charge into the back of Lieutenant Gabriel. They have 4 claw attacks, normally hitting on 5, but he has a combat shield and they need 6s instead, which means all 4 attacks miss the target. Lieutenant Gabriel is fatigued, but he decides to fight back anyway, needing 6s, and also he fails all of the attacks. From his position behind the pipeline, Brother Francis fires his heavy rifle into the Plague Brother with the Plague Sprayer. And with a 6, it's a hit. And it's an AP1 weapon, so the Plague Brother will need a 4 to defend. And with a 3, he fails, and he will receive 1 wound, but again, with a chance to regenerate, and with a 5 he regenerates the wound. They are very tough to take down with the regeneration. The Plague Zombies here charge against Raider Vincent. They will have 6 attacks with claws and they need 5s to hit. And here we have a couple of 6s. So in total they manage to hit him twice. It's AP nothing, but he will still need 4s to defend. And with 2 6s, he defends the attack in style. He then fights back 3 attacks with his energy sword, and that was certainly not the same type of class. He is a better defender than he is an attacker. Plague Brother Zorlak again moves forward with his disgusting Plague Sprayer. 6 shots against Brother Francis. He will need a 4 to hit. And that's a lot of misses, but also a couple of hits here. None of them are 6s, so they won't be poisonous. But Francis needs to make a defend roll, and with a 1, he actually misses one of them. So he will receive 1 wound, and he will have to roll on the wound chart. And with a roll of 4, he barely manages to stay in the game, but he will be stunned. And that was the end of the 3rd round. And the status is more or less the same. The Plague Brothers force the Prime Brothers back. They seize the objectives, and a couple of the Prime Brothers are also stunned. Now we'll see how things turn out in round number 4. Lieutenant Gabriel is determined to take Kaligor down, so he once again charges against Kaligor with 3 attacks of his energy sword, and he will need 3s, so 2 hits, and Kaligor has to defend with a value of AP1. He will need 4s, and, well, he defends just fine. And now he fights back with his axe, normally needing a 3 to hit, but because of the shield, he will need a 4, and that means he also misses. Plague Brother Zorlak wants to finish the job, so he fires his Plague Sprayer once again against the stunned Prime Brother Francis. So 6 shots, he is in cover, so he will need 4s to hit, but with 1 6 and a 5, and that means the 6 is poisonous and will be multiplied, he will have plenty of hits. Actually, he only needs 1 hit to automatically take Brother Francis out of the game. The Prime Brothers are turning desperate. Brother Lothar moves close to the objectives and he fires his auto rifle 2 shots against the Plague Brother. He will need 3s to hit, so that's 2 hits, and the Plague Brother will need 3s to defend. And with a 5 and a 6, he is just fine. Vincent, the remaining raider, is more or less surrounded and alone, and now the plague zombies charge him, which means 6 claw attacks hitting on 5s. And that's 2 hits. So he will have to defend, and he will need 4 to defend the claws. And he is a great defender once again. 2 4s means that he's not hit. So now he fights back. 3 attacks with his energy sword. And he needs 4s to hit. Unfortunately, that's no hits for Vincent. And even though he is fatigued, he decides to charge the plague zombies, which means he will need 6s, and he gets 2, and they are rending, so they will need 6 to defend, and they can't regenerate. And they do not defend any of the hits, so that's 2 plague zombies down. Kaligor fires his plasma pistol at close range against Lieutenant Gabriel, and with a 6 it's a clear hit. Gabriel will now need a 6 to defend, and he does not, so he is wounded again, now with a total of 2 wounds. Plague Brother Demork charges against Brother Lothar, and he attacks him with his energy axe. 1 hit. He needs 3s to hit, so with a 5 it's a hit. It's not deadly though, and he has a chance to defend, and with a 6 he is not wounded. Now he can fight back, and he has close combat attacks hitting on 3s. So 1 hit that Brother Demork will have to defend, and with a 6 he too manages to stop the attack. The plague zombies here continue to hunt down Lieutenant Gabriel. They have 4 claw attacks, but they still need 6s to hit and wound him because of his combat shield. And no 6s and no hits. The lieutenant can fight back, but he too will need 6s because he has already fought this round. No hits. At the end of the round, the Prime Brothers are down to half strength, so they will need to make morale tests. They are all fearless, so Vincent here will fail with a roll of 1 or 2, so he is good. Brother Lothar will fail with a roll of 1, and he's also good. And finally, Lieutenant Gabriel, who will fail with a 1, and everything else will be a success. And with a 2, Lieutenant Gabriel, of course, will stay on the battlefield. Even though the Prime Brothers are fearless and they don't flee the battlefield, Lieutenant Gabriel and his men will have to face the fact that the Havoc, Plague Brothers and Kaligor control the most objectives here at the end of round number 4. To be more precise, 3 of the objectives are contested by both, and objective number 4 here is seized by the Plague Brothers. And that means it's a tactical victory, and Lieutenant Gabriel and his remaining men here will have to withdraw and lose the battle. Gabriel is still alive though, but he is weak for his upcoming mission. Now we'll see the fate of the knocked out Prime Brothers. First Marcus here, who will recover. Then Assault Brother Gennaro. He will also recover with a roll of 1. They would have been killed. And finally Francis here, and with a roll of 4, he is also recovering. Kaligor and his Havoc Plague Brothers won the battle, and he forced his arch-enemy Gabriel to escape. But he is still not quite satisfied because Gabriel is still alive and he still has a score to settle. Thanks a lot for watching this battle report. I hope you will join me for future bat reps.